is now Van Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on Hunter the Reckoning in the World of Darkness. Last left off, we've been talking about building your Hunter character, a very important thing, and we had been diving into the depths of concept. Today, let us start by finishing the last bit of your concept, your nature. The nature is actually a reflection of your true self, the true essence that you have. Nature, in a way, reflects the way that you look not only to yourself, how you look at other people, reflects how you look upon the world all around you. And more often than not, your nature is in fact a leftover from your time before the imbuing, before you became a hunter. Granted, events like the imbuing can change the nature of, well, your nature, so you could have a nature that was formed after the imbuing, and that's an important detail about nature. You as a conscious individual do not change your nature. You need some kind of life-threatening event or life-shattering event to alter your perception in a way, and therefore alter the nature of your being, how you act to a degree. Something that crushes you, breaks you down, but you still survive it. Once you rebuild yourself, you might not be the same person anymore. Of course, when an event like that would occur that you believe your nature should change, that is when you go to your storyteller and find out if it's appropriate. Otherwise, your nature is your nature. Now, nature is something that is quite different from creed, though they do occasionally get a kind of carryover. Creed is more that it's how you're responding to the world of darkness, how you're responding to the monsters in the world. While a lot of hunters like to try to keep these two separate. They could be the same. They could kind of overlap, that the hunting nature you have overlaps with your true self. But you usually want to try to keep that, like, a semblance of your normalcy back in your life. So, of course, you want to keep sort of the identity of who you are, the nature of who you are, separate from how you are as a hunter, how you act when you need to hunt. So that's why you often will find nature and creed different. Now, the most important thing about nature, it determines the way you can recover willpower. We are going to talk about that later on, the processes for recovering willpower, but you have to know that that is what you're going to be using as a basis for doing it. Now, let's move on to what the next step after your concept is, choosing your attributes. Attributes are, in fact, a general measure of yourself. That's the easiest way to describe it. That when we look at the base form of you, the base, kind of strengths you have, the personality you have, the intelligence you have, attributes are generally generally measuring those statistics on your character and expressing them in a way we can use for traits, for numbers, for roles, how it can interact with the role-playing world. Now, attributes are broken down from this general category into three smaller categories: physical, mental, and social. From these three, we get to choose what our attributes are. Now, you get to choose points that you're going to be using in each of these categories. We have our three categories. One of these categories will get 6 points. Another of my choice will get 4, and the final one will get 3. Basically, I get to choose if I'm a physical-heavy character, if I'm a mental-heavy character, and I'm a social-heavy character, and then arrange between the other two a comparison after that. Now, beyond that, we want to look at each of these three categories, because each of these three categories has, again, 3 attributes to it. Our physical attributes are strength, dexterity, and stamina. My social ones are charisma, manipulation, and appearance. And my mental ones are perception, wits, and intelligence. Now, every attribute you have starts with at least 1 dot. You can't be alive, a living creature, unless you at least have 1 dot in all 9 of these. So you get 1 bonus. After that, then you get to arrange those statistics as you want it. If you chose to be physical, you're going to have 6 points to put in there. If you chose then your secondary one to be mental, you can have 4 points. And of course then, the last one would be socially at 3. And arrange them how you want. Put the points in there. Remember, your maximum amount in any of these traits will be 5. So that means I could pump in out of my 6 points, if I, for example, put them into physical, I could put all 4 of them into strength, have 2 left over just to put in the other ones, and be a bruiser! Once we're done with our attributes, we want to talk about our abilities. Abilities are different than attributes, that they are things that you have learned over the course of your lifetime. Now, the nature of the learning kind of divides up into the nature of the various categories that there are in abilities. We have talents, skills, and knowledges. Talents are ability that you learn through actual experience. You did things. This is stuff you can't learn through studying on it. That's what a talent is. It's something that you have to experience and do yourself, and it becomes ingrained into you. Practice makes perfect, in a way. Skills, on the other hand, are things that you learned and studied about and got a hold of them. Knowledges are a little bit more free-form, as they are things that you learn through studying also. The easy way to tell knowledges from skills is knowledges is based around things that you would remember. I think of them, I know them, I remember what I learned. Skills, on the other hand, are things that you do. These are activities related to what you learned. So you can see how there's a difference. One's more based on your memorizing, knowledge, intellectual based, and the other is more based on your activity base. Now, similar to attributes, abilities get a prioritizing. Effectively, you get to choose one of these three, talent, skills, or knowledges, that is your primary thing you're good at. You get 11 dots to place in that ability. The next one you choose, 7, and the last one, 4. So you could be very talent heavy, maybe have a good amount of knowledges kind of in the middle, and very bad at skills. Or you could be any kind of arrangement otherwise. You can prioritize any of the three. Your choice. But this is a choice that you get to make. Now, it is important to note that you do not start with any dots in any of these. They are all blank. You do get to be able to put dots in there up to 3 at this point in time. Now, yes, granted, once again, 5 is the normal maximum for any of these traits. But at this time in character creation, you can only do 3. You can, however, start with a character higher than 3 in any of these, but you have to use freebie points to do it, which we will discuss later on in another episode. But just know that right now, in our part of character creation, 3 is what we're aiming for in anything I'm taking. I could take 0, 1, 2, or 3. You don't have to have everything. Now, the next step after here is to do your character's advantages. What do I mean by advantages? Advantages are a set of traits that you take which act as kind of tools for your character on the hunt. They're generalized at that kind of thing. They are tools that your character are going to manipulate and have. Advantages are never prioritized. The important thing to look at these is that every advantage gets a set number of points. Period. Now, you can spend some freebie points to gain more dots in the advantage backgrounds, but that is the only one. The other advantages you cannot spend freebie points on. So I can have more backgrounds with more of those freebie points, but that's it. For backgrounds, though, I get 5 dots that I can spread between any of the backgrounds of my choice. Again, I don't need all the backgrounds. I don't need any of them in particular. Whatever ones I feel are as appropriate to my character, I will choose and put dots into. And like before, you can have 1 to 5. Backgrounds represent things that your character brought with them when they came into the world of darkness, when they became imbued and became a hunter. Though it is important to note that if you wish to, some of these backgrounds could reflect you gaining certain things after you're imbued. There are certain things like perhaps you gained resources from a monster you defeated. Perhaps you found a cop friend after you became imbued. Yes, there are times when you can gain backgrounds afterwards, but generally speaking, the majority are from beforehand. It is very important to note that your backgrounds should fit your character concept, everything you've been building up to now. If your storyteller looks at the backgrounds you've chosen and feels that these are not appropriate to the character you are building, they can ask you to choose more different ones. So make sure to think about the concepts you've already built into your character and if this background would fit with it. If I'm a kind of loner type, am I going to have a whole bunch of contacts? No. Now, virtues are your character's measure of how much they wish to destroy monsters, to save the souls of the innocent, and to fight back the darkness that's going around, to basically bring safety to the world. That's what a virtue is. And there are 3 different virtues you can look at: zeal, vision, and mercy. Each of these actually has a rating from 1 to 10. Zeal is your character's measure of faith in themselves. That's a great way to describe it. How much they believe in themselves and how they can push forth in the causes they have. How willing you are to push forth in the battle. Vision is your ability to kind of see the options ahead of you, what's going on, and how you may react to everything that is happening, keeping the big picture in mind. Mercy is, of course, your compassion and your forgiveness that you can have, both for souls that are perhaps lost to the darkness that need to be saved, or maybe even for monsters themselves. Now, each creed is assigned one of these virtues. I talked about which virtues are linked to which creeds when I was talking about them before, but consider the fact that these virtues are something that you won't discuss in-game. It's like you don't talk about actual characters, actual people. Would not talk about, my strength is rated 3. No, you don't talk about that thing. So you're like, my zeal is rated... That's not something that's discussed. The numbers game when it comes to the virtues. It's important to know these virtues as they're connected to the creeds because that is your primary virtue. Virtues are, of course, awarded to you as a character when you become imbued. It's important to pay attention to what your primary virtue is because you get 3 points to spend on virtues. Period, to start out with. And the fact is, you can spend those points on any virtue you want with a single rule. Your primary virtue must be, at very least, have no other virtue higher than it. So if my primary virtue is zeal, I can't have any other virtue starting out higher than my zeal. It has to be my top one. I can put all 3 of my virtue points into zeal. I can put 2 into that and 1 into the other one. I can spread the 3 across, 1 for each of the different ones. All 3 of these are basic options for how you can arrange your virtues. But you just have to remember that whatever that primary is, that one at least has to be tied with the highest ones of everyone else, if not the highest itself. Virtues increase the deeper you go into the battles against the darkness, how you throw yourself into them. And it is important to note that virtues are what you're going to use to unlock those hunter powers, edges. They are intrinsically linked together. But that's it for today. So we dove into a great chunk of character concept. Character creation. Finished our concept. Talked about our attributes. Talked about our abilities. And we talked about pretty much most of the advantages you're going to have as a character. In the next episode, we're going to finish up the advantages by talking about edges. And then we're going to move on and talking about the finishing touches to your characters. And we're going to have gone over the basics of character creation. There are still a lot of details that you might want to look in one of the books to help you out with. Because the books are going to tell you about like a little bit more information about any of the abilities, any of the attributes, going to give you a list of backgrounds, things like that. But for now, I hope you're having a great day. If you've had a unique set of backgrounds that fit very well with the concept, that seem perfectly matched with it, let me know. Because I'm always interested in the fact that you have to have these 2 matching, and how well your storyteller thought they matched it. Have they commented on it? Have you had a really cool idea that matches both of them? Let me know. But anyway, until the next time, I bid you farewell.